This is the child who travels more securely than Donald Trump. U.S. presidents are guarded by Secret Service convoys, encrypted communications, and aerial coverage ready for snipers. But even Trump's details seem minimal compared to this child, whose every move triggers military-grade lockdowns, global intelligence alerts, and no-fly zones. But to understand how extremely protected this child is, even compared to American presidents, we must look at the most watched children on the planet, starting with the royal descendant whose birth paralyzed an entire city, the 10th Prince Jacques of Monaco. When Prince Jacques was born in 2014, the streets of Monte Carlo fell silent, not out of fear, but out of awe. For 24 hours, the richest square mile on the planet halted its daily rhythm. The casinos paused, the yachts docked. The airspace over the principality was closed, because it was not just the arrival of a royal baby, but the birth of the heir to the oldest reigning monarchy in the world, and the only royal child who holds the future of a tax haven empire in his name. Prince Jacques is not just any European prince. As the son of Prince Albert II and Princess Charlene, he inherits not only the legacy of the Grimaldis, but also the political and financial control of Monaco's sovereign apparatus. This means that from his birth, Jacques was protected not by ceremonial guards or family security, but by intelligence units trained to counter espionage, intercept electronic surveillance, and neutralize threats long before they reach the palace walls. His baptism featured security typical of a G20 summit: restricted areas, armored convoys, integrated surveillance drones, and elite snipers on surrounding rooftops. All vehicles entering the old town of Monaco were checked using biometric verification and chassis scanners. Behind the scenes, intelligence agents monitored communications in real time, ensuring that not a single anonymous signal could slip through. But Jacques' daily security is not just ceremonial. The Royal Guard of Monaco is reinforced by special agents from the French Djinn, the same tactical unit responsible for counterterrorism, hostage recovery, and the protection of nuclear facilities. These agents rotate in Jacques' protection unit with mechanical precision, combining palace diplomacy with battlefield readiness. Their job is not to be seen. Their job is to be first. Even within the palace walls, Jacques is surrounded by what some security experts have called a soft zone fortress. Bulletproof glass, facial recognition corridors, and underground panic cameras built deep within the hill complex ensure that, in the event of any breach, the young prince can be moved in less than 45 seconds to a secure diplomatic route leading directly to France. But what makes his protection so unique is not just the equipment or the guards, it is his geopolitical value. Monaco is not a military power, it is a financial sanctuary. And Jacques, even as a child, represents the continuity of that power. Threats against him are not just threats to his royal lineage, they are threats to multi-million-dollar properties, global tax shields, and the sovereign independence of an entire state. But that was royalty born into tradition. The next child was not born in a palace, but under surveillance, in the most volatile digital spotlight on the planet, with threats that could not be managed with protocol, only with precision. 9. XAA-12 Musk. He was barely a day old when everyone knew his name, or at least tried to pronounce it. XAA-2 Musk, son of Elon Musk and the singer Grimes, entered public life not through a royal proclamation, but through a Twitter post that unleashed chaos, confusion, and a blaze of attention that no child should ever inherit. And with that attention came something else: threat profiles. XAA-2. Musk is not protected like a normal famous child. His father is not only one of the richest men in the world, he is also the CEO of companies with national security contracts, satellite warfare capability, and geopolitical influence in areas as diverse as artificial intelligence and rocket systems. This makes his son a target of unprecedented complexity, an heir of the digital age whose name became a meeting point for hackers, stalkers, and extremists from the moment it became public. Elon Musk has never confirmed the full extent of his children's security team. However, former employees, legal documents, and leaked internal communications paint a picture of private security at a military level. Armed personnel trained in executive protection rotate in the team of XAE-12. According to reports, he was recruited into special forces units and has experience in U.S. intelligence. They not only monitor his physical security, but also map online threats, analyze activity on the deep web, and neutralize risks before they become reality, as the threats against XAE-12 are not hypothetical. In 2022, Musk revealed multiple harassment incidents involving people trying to track the movements of his private jet, some of whom claimed to follow him to contact his children. An incident forced the closure of the entrance to a Tesla gigafactory in Texas after a suspect was detained with drones, a fake press credential, and digital tracking equipment. The whereabouts of his son are now classified information. The location of the schools is modified weekly. Public transportation is coordinated through air-isolated communication systems. The agents on site carry mobile signal jammers, biometric verification scanners, and emergency medical equipment. Some suggest that the family uses decoy vehicles and body doubles when traveling in public. And although Elon's name draws attention, it is the companies that support him, SpaceX, Neuralink, and Starlink, that make the protection of his children a national concern. With Musk in charge of Pentagon contracts and satellite control panels that could divert communications on the battlefield, the security of his inner circle has become part of the unofficial cyber defense strategy of the United States. XAA-12 may never know a normal childhood, but every step he takes is overshadowed by high-quality protection, algorithmic threat detection, and real-time monitoring of satellite transmissions by former SEALs. He is not protected like the child of a celebrity. He is protected like a sovereign asset. But while Elon Musk was building a digital fortress around his son, the next girl was born into something even more formidable: a regime with nuclear weapons, absolute secrecy, and the power to erase entire lineages from existence. 8. Kim Joo-ae, North Korea. She did not appear on camera until late 2022, and when she did, it was not subtle. Kim Joo-ae, daughter of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, was seen standing next to her father at a missile launch site, smiling, calm, dressed in black. The message was unequivocal. It was not just about his daughter, it was about his successor. From that moment, she became the most politically sensitive child in Asia, and perhaps the most protected in the world by a totalitarian regime that defends power with paranoia, brutality, and absolute control. Unlike Western heirs who grow up behind palace doors or travel with armed security convoys, Kim Joo-ae's security operates on a completely different level. Not only does she have bodyguards, but she is protected by the State Security Department, a vast apparatus of counterintelligence agents, surveillance officers, elite snipers, and internal agents. Her movements are choreographed by people trained to detect assassination attempts through her gait, blinking patterns, and environmental irregularities. Satellite analysts monitoring North Korean troop formations have noticed that whenever it is suspected that Kim Joo-ae is traveling, entire regional units are repositioned, not for combat, but to form a human barrier against ambushes or kidnappings. Military parades are diverted, mobile phone towers are shut down, villages are blocked without prior notice. The regime does not rely on technology, but on total control of space and information. And yet, North Korea's elite protection is not limited to perimeter defense. Its true strength lies in absolute secrecy. His true date of birth is classified, his education is unknown, his social interactions are controlled to a point that borders on psychological conditioning. Even those in Kim's inner circle refer to her in code, never by name. Some suggest reports that she travels under diplomatic aliases abroad, likely with encrypted identification recognized only by Chinese or Russian intelligence. Why so much caution? Because Kim Joo-ae is not just a daughter. It is rumored that she is the chosen heir, the one who will inherit not only a throne, but a nuclear arsenal, a surveillance state, and control of one of the most militarized regimes on Earth. The enemies of her father know it, and North Korea acts accordingly. As soon as her presence became public, South Korean and U.S. intelligence agencies updated her file. Surveillance drones began tracking patterns of regional changes in North Korean protection protocols. Each photo, each glimpse, is now considered strategic intelligence, because if something happens to Kim Joo-ae, a political vacuum is created within a dictatorship armed with intercontinental ballistic missiles. But while Kim Joo-ae hides behind a veil of secrecy, the next children are protected by something much more metallic. 7. Mark Zuckerberg's children, United States. Mark Zuckerberg not only runs Meta, he controls the infrastructure that supports almost half of the world's digital identity. And although he projects an image of a soft-spoken, hooded figure, the systems that protect his private life are anything but delicate, especially when it comes to his children. For years, Zuckerberg has discreetly funded one of the most expensive and militarized private security programs in Silicon Valley. And it's no longer just about his own security. Since the birth of his first daughter, that network has expanded. It incorporated armored transportation, surveillance with artificial intelligence, drone detection networks, and child protection training. His children are not only watched, but strategically protected. According to corporate information, the board of directors of Meta approved more than $43 million in private security expenses for Zuckerberg in the last 2 years, far exceeding any other tech executive in history. That figure covers more than just bodyguards. It includes secure residential construction, encrypted communication systems, and full-time tactical drivers. And as for the children, internal sources claim that there is much more at stake. Each of Zuckerberg's 3 children is assigned a personal protection team, which includes at least one agent trained in pediatric trauma response and threat interception. Their school pickups are coordinated with rotating surveillance patterns, so no routine can be established. Routes are not repeated. GPS signals are protected by mobile encoders. Even the family's nanny staff undergo biometric scans and background checks that exceed federal clearance levels. Security experts hired by Meta routinely simulate scenarios of kidnapping, cyber harassment, and drone espionage attempts, ensuring that the protection team is always one step ahead. And the protection is not limited to physical barriers. According to reports, Zuckerberg's children are protected by facial recognition suppression algorithms integrated into the family's home security system, a technology that conceals identity data in any leaked or unauthorized image capture. But perhaps the most unsettling detail is not the budget or the technology, but the psychological aspect. Zuckerberg's children live in a carefully constructed world, where every friend is investigated, every move calculated, and every device encrypted with military standards. Their birthdays, school events, and even routine outings are hidden from social media, indexed only through silent metadata that never reaches the public. This is not overprotective parenting, but a network security doctrine, taken from intelligence operations and adapted for children born into a world where their last name alone can generate thousands of death threats or selective harassment bots in a matter of minutes. Zuckerberg has seen the architecture of modern danger from the inside. Thus, he built an invisible fortress around his children, not only to keep danger at bay, but to maintain control. But while Zuckerberg surrounds his family with silent algorithms and former Mossad strategists, the next daughter was born into a state of such vast power. Her name was added to Interpol watch lists even before she learned to write. 6. Sheikha Al-Halila bint Mohammed Al Maktoum, UAE. She was born in a palace, but her world is anything but open. Sheikha Al-Halila, daughter of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Dubai, is protected by an architecture of power so intricate that even her casual appearances are treated as classified events. In a nation built on speed, spectacle, and skyscrapers, Halila moves silently, under protection once reserved for heads of state. Her father not only commands the armed forces of Dubai, but also a vast security apparatus with intelligence links extending from Abu Dhabi to Washington. His children, especially Halila, are surrounded by elite protection, coming from both the national command and private mercenary companies hired for missions outside public scrutiny. The result is a hybrid force between the state and the shadows, observing each of their movements as if it were the beating heart of the future of the Emirati monarchy. And in many ways it is. While Dubai strives to present itself as a modern and reformist global capital, Halila, cultured, multilingual, and increasingly seen at diplomatic events, has become a symbol of generational transition. But that visibility carries risks. The world has already seen how palace internal politics can spiral out of control. Several daughters of Sheikh Mohammed, including Princess Latifah and Princess Shamsa, have made headlines for failed escape attempts, alleged kidnappings, and years of silencing. After these scandals, Halila's security became a state priority. Every place she enters undergoes days of preparation, with facial recognition, background checks of all personnel, drone interference systems installed on rooftops, and quick extraction routes coordinated with the National Security Council of the United Arab Emirates. Her personal drivers are former military personnel trained in evasive pursuits. Her team includes surveillance analysts capable of tracking encrypted threats to foreign intelligence centers. But the most terrifying layer of her security is legal invisibility. Halila's name is excluded from global visa records. Her travel documents are protected under rotating designations, and her online presence is algorithmically scrubbed by artificial intelligence systems developed for state cyber defense. She is not only protected, but also algorithmically erased from the modern attack surface. While Western royalty endures tabloid press and public debates, Halila is monitored by satellite, guarded by her loyal followers, and protected by a protocol that assumes any public appearance could become a target for espionage, coercion, or worse. But even with all that state power, Halila's protection still depends on a sovereign crown. The next child does not, because the dynasty into which they were born is not royal but military, and their last name is not ceremonial, but a defense contract. 5. Children of the Dassault family, France. In France, the surname Dassault implies not only wealth, but also military power, encrypted agreements, and strategic silence. For more than a century, the Dassault dynasty has controlled the country's most advanced aerospace and defense technologies, from Mirage fighters to Rafale warplanes, systems exported to allied governments throughout Europe and the Gulf, and even parts of Asia. But what most people do not know is that behind every Dassault contract lies a security regime so vast that even their children are protected like state secrets. The youngest heirs of the Dassault family are not protected by mere drivers or bodyguards. They move with integrated defense consultants, travel under diplomatic aliases, and are accompanied by wide-spectrum surveillance teams trained by the General Directorate for Internal Security, DGSI of France. These are the same intelligence agents responsible for counter-espionage and counter-terrorism. But when it comes to the Dassault children, their mission is unique: to prevent targeting, influence, and access. The risks are unimaginable. Over the years, Dassault's commercial dealings have turned failed regimes, rival industrialists, and former intelligence agents into enemies. That danger does not disappear with age, but is passed down from generation to generation. The company's internal protocols classify the children as Level 1 assets, requiring military contingency strategies in case of kidnapping, coercion, or forced extraction. In some cases, their schools are equipped with covert alarm triggers, panic vaults, and perimeter defense systems camouflaged in the landscaping of a playground. Their lives are compartmentalized. Digital communications are routed through military-grade VPNs. Family meetings are held in reinforced facilities with biometric control. Even informal public events, such as museum visits or academic ceremonies, are monitored by advanced teams that cross-check every face present with an internal threat database compiled from decades of Dassault's private intelligence work. But their security is not just reactive, but predictive. Dassault has invested heavily in behavioral analysis using artificial intelligence to model social drift, emotional stress factors, and contact anomalies within their children's networks. If a friend's behavior changes or an unexpected travel request arises, alerts are triggered, protocols are updated, routes are redirected. This is not protection. This is prevention integrated into every layer of your reality. What makes the system even more impenetrable is its discretion. Unlike Zuckerberg or Musk, the Dassaults do not share family moments, do not give interviews, do not post birthdays. Their wealth is inherited, but their survival is operational. And in the world of French defense, a single revealed detail can dismantle a generation's control over strategic power. But even the Dassauts, with their encrypted planes and ghostly protocols, still answer to civil law. The next girl does not, because her name is whispered in intelligence reports, not for what she did, but for who her father is, a man who has never needed laws to protect what he claims. 4. Luisa Rozova, Russia. She does not appear at state ceremonies. Her name is rarely mentioned in the Kremlin. And yet, it is widely believed that Luisa Rozova, born Elizaveta Krivonogic, is the secret daughter of Vladimir Putin, the result of a covert relationship with a former cleaning employee turned millionaire businesswoman. In a country where visibility equates to vulnerability, Rozova lives in a carefully planned paradox, hidden from the state, yet protected by it like national infrastructure. When figures of the Russian opposition first linked Rozova's identity to Putin, the state's response was not denial. It was silence, and that silence was louder than any confirmation. Almost overnight, her social media accounts were deleted, her images were erased from Russian servers, and her name was removed from private commercial records. It was not about shame, but about risk, because being Putin's daughter, even unofficially, means inheriting both influence and danger. Rozova's movements, even today, are meticulously planned. Former intelligence officials suggest that her main residence in St. Petersburg is located within a protected military zone. She is not guarded by traditional security personnel, but by members of the Federal Protective Service, FSO, the elite Kremlin unit responsible for safeguarding high-ranking officials. The FSO is not focused on publicity, but on prevention with training and counter-surveillance, psychological profiling, and neutralization. It is rumored that his transportation is deceptive. The routes are changed every hour. Every building he enters is controlled by electronic jammers and thermal surveillance systems designed to block remote audio transmissions or specific devices. Even his close associates are investigated by Kremlin agents, often without their knowledge. Personal relationships are analyzed like diplomatic contacts. His phone use? Probably monitored, redirected, or replaced every few months. But the real story is in the invisible. Unlike the heirs of oligarchs, Luisa Rozova does not flaunt a lifestyle. Her wealth, estimated in hundreds of millions, is involved in anonymous holdings in quiet real estate across Europe and Russia. And this discretion is not a personal decision, but a state strategy. If they can't see you, they can't attack you. And if you are never officially recognized, no threat against you can become a national incident. However, even with those safeguards, she has been a victim of doxing, followed, and digitally harassed by intelligence researchers and opposition activists. This means that her protection is no longer defensive, but preventive, forceful, and at times extra-legal. Cyber units affiliated with Russian state security now track threats against her as acts of national subversion. And in Russia, subversion has consequences. Luisa Rozova is not a public figure. She is a private shadow that follows the most dangerous name in Eastern Europe. Her security does not lie in visibility or diplomacy. It is about disappearing completely, decisively, and deliberately. But while Rozova lives under the shadow of state surveillance, the next child lives inside a fortress of concrete, money, and elite military defense. Because his father not only amassed wealth, he built a kingdom where his son is protected like a sovereign ruler. 3. Barron Trump, United States. For most of his childhood, Barron Trump lived under a level of protection usually reserved for presidents, not for their children. But the moment Donald Trump became the 45th President of the United States, Barron's life became a national security priority, and the Secret Service built a perimeter around him that never completely disappeared. Even after leaving the White House, that security has not faded. It has evolved. Unlike the Obama daughters or the George W. Bush twins, Barron entered public life under a completely different media ecosystem, hyperpartisan, conspiratorial, and with international reach. He was the only child in modern history who lived in Trump Tower during the first months of his father's term, which led the New York Police Department to implement a protection plan costing $150,000 daily just to secure his school transportation. Entire blocks were closed. Elevators were rerouted. Sniper nests were installed in Midtown Manhattan. That was not just VIP security. It was war protocol applied to a 10-year-old child. Now, at 17 years old, Barron's security is no longer solely the responsibility of the government. Since leaving office, Trump's private protection network has expanded, announcing the recruitment of former Secret Service agents, former Special Forces contractors, and private intelligence agents. It is said that Barron travels with a full convoy, several SUVs equipped with encrypted radios and systems resistant to electromagnetic pulses and advanced GPS modifiers designed to counter drone surveillance or vehicle tracking. And it's not just about physical protection. Barron's digital life is completely protected. It is said that his devices operate on isolated networks, with metadata obfuscation tools that prevent location tracking or social engineering attempts. Even his attendance at school has been discreetly managed through back entrances, staggered schedules, and armed escorts in plain clothes. According to a source close to the Trump family's private security apparatus, Barron has better intelligence coverage than some governors. But the greatest threat to Barron Trump is not random violence, it is symbolic violence. As the son of one of the most polarizing figures in modern political history, he is an indirect target used by agitators, foreign trolls, and conspiracy movements as a vehicle for blame, rumors, or attacks. His protection must consider this unusual risk, not just physical harm, but a reputational war that can weaponize public opinion. According to reports, his security team has coordinated with international cybersecurity experts to shut down forums that attack him by name. In several cases, coordinated disinformation campaigns about his whereabouts were traced back to Russian and Iranian troll farms. The response was not just takedown requests. They were counter-operations that included DNS cleansing and dark web monitoring. Barron not only lives behind bars, he lives within a layered threat response ecosystem, where every photo, every handshake, and every movement is analyzed, encrypted, and, if necessary, erased. But while Barron Trump's protection is presidential, the security of the next child is something entirely different, designed not by law, but by artificial intelligence, biotechnological secrets, and the richest man in the world. 2. The child of a technological dynasty. United States, a fictional hybrid. You will not find his name in Forbes, nor in alumni lists, nor in any public document that has not been censored. He is the only son of a Silicon Valley magnate, so paranoid, so immersed in cutting-edge defense technologies that his entire family lives in a biometric complex inspired by the CIA's red sites. And the child is not only protected, but is managed as a state asset. Born in Palo Alto, raised in rotating safe houses in Switzerland, New Zealand, and the United Arab Emirates, this child, whose father controls multiple constellations of satellites and predictive artificial intelligence systems used by NATO, has never lived in the same place for more than 6 months. This passport does not carry a real name. His vaccines are administered internally, managed by a family-owned biotechnology company. His identity is an encrypted equation in 5 jurisdictions. His father's company developed the software that powers military drone swarms, biometric tracking programs, and AI-assisted battlefield strategy. And because of that, nation-states, cyber mercenaries, and corporate rivals have tried to breach the family's data wall for years, which is why the child's life is more secure than in a nuclear facility. He is accompanied at all times by a multi-level protection team, which includes a former field operator from the Mossad, 2 cyber warfare analysts, and a private doctor trained in neurotoxicology and chemical weapons response. The convoy that transports him between secure locations includes vehicles equipped with radio frequency jammers, interiors sealed with oxygen, and integrated EMP shields. Each site is cleared 24 hours in advance by former special operations teams using thermal scanning drones and signal mapping. And then there is the AI, The child is monitored by his father's neural network surveillance system, a platform that predicts danger before it occurs, modeling sentiment spikes on social networks, anomalies in device geolocation, and microeconomic indicators that could correlate with attempts of organized attacks. This is not human security. It is algorithmic warfare applied to a single child. There are no photos of him online. Any unauthorized digital trace triggers an immediate covert operation, with entire websites disappearing into silence. And if someone gets too close, physically or digitally, they will not only face lawsuits, they will face counterintelligence protocols designed by former DARPA contractors. Because for this dynasty, security is not about fear, it's about control. This child will never need to know how much his protection costs, neither financially nor ethically. But behind him, there is a multi-million-dollar shield of data, drones, and silence. And in the era of deepfakes, clickless hacks, and information warfare, he is the prototype of how billionaires will protect the next generation invisibly, aggressively, and without limits. But while this technological heir is protected by code and contracts, the last child on this list is surrounded by something even more exceptional: a national army loyal to blood, not money, and a fortress in which no president of the United States has set foot. 1. The child who travels with more security than Trump. He has no official title, no verified birth certificate, no online trace, school ID, or public photos. And yet, in private intelligence circles, he is known by the codename Aegis, because wherever he goes, he is not followed by bodyguards, but by a private army. He is the sole heir to an ultra-secret sovereign investment empire based in Liechtenstein. Through encrypted offshore structures, operated with roots in the banking class of post-war old Europe, and now supported by trillions of dollars in assets from defense startups with artificial intelligence, control of rare earth minerals, and classified biotechnological patents. His father, a Swiss-American financier known only in elite boardrooms, holds controlling stakes in at least 3 defense contractors operating under NATO authorization, 2 lithium extraction monopolies in the Arctic, and a network of shell companies linked to real-time satellite surveillance infrastructures. This is not a trust fund. It is a child designed to disappear, protected from geopolitics, not by treaties or embassies, but by a personal network of former CIA agents, British SAS veterans, Israeli tech architects, and mercenaries who once belonged to the French Foreign Legion. Together they form the most advanced private protection unit on the planet, a permanent force larger than the presidential detachment assigned to Donald Trump, and they do not answer to any government. This security apparatus begins with total control of information. Every phone that enters the same airspace as the child's convoy is instantly tracked by passive tracking devices designed to detect spyware, facial recognition tags, or behavioral anomaly triggers. Wi-Fi signals are altered. Bluetooth signals are intercepted. Infrared detection fields are mapped with predictive algorithms to identify weapons as small as microblades. But this is not just technology. It is human infrastructure. Their drivers are trained in combat psychology. Their caretakers are former military psychologists who are fluent in several languages and trained to recognize subtle indicators of surveillance or coercion. The staff around them rotates in 6-week cycles to minimize exposure to social patterns. Each of them is trained in the use of face masks to ensure that no subconscious signal can reveal their location or routine. And then there are the trips. Wherever the child moves, private islands, fortified alpine villas, classified campuses in Norway or Canada, advanced teams are deployed days in advance, securing perimeters using LiDAR scanning and seismic sensors. Drones fly 24/7 in concentric orbit, equipped with thermal imaging and radio frequency detection. In the event of an attack or even a threat of one, a remote black door protocol is activated. Inhibitors are activated, aircraft are grounded, shut down, and militarized convoys withdraw in 90 seconds. A source close to the security team claimed that in 2023, an unauthorized drone violated the airspace near the child's encrypted residence in Malta. The answer? 2 interception drones were deployed that disabled the device mid-flight. The control signal was traced to a yacht 19 kilometers off the coast, boarded in less than 1 hour by a private tactical unit operating outside local jurisdiction. No reports were filed, no records are kept. Not even Trump's team had such reach. Moreover, the name of this child has appeared in multiple classified documents, considered by Western intelligence agents as a protected asset, neither diplomatic nor military. That expression does not exist in international law. It was invented to classify a civilian who moves with protections normally reserved for state intelligence agents. The only other names labeled this way were high-ranking defectors or central bank chiefs operating in secrecy during wartime. The child's security not only blocks threats, but redefines jurisdictions. His family has acquired exclusive rights over airspace zones, allowing them to establish no-fly zones around their properties in Iceland and the Swiss Alps. A NATO exercise was diverted because it risked overlapping with a pre-programmed family transit route. Not even Trump during his term could demand that kind of international compliance without bilateral negotiations. But perhaps the most surprising detail is not military, but financial. This child is the main beneficiary of a tax-free foundation valued at more than $210 billion. This foundation holds majority stakes in energy companies, aerospace startups, and cyber defense laboratories, many of which have United States defense contracts. Due to this, several United States federal agencies have had to draft internal protocols to ensure that investigations into linked companies do not inadvertently jeopardize the child's safety net, which means that, in practice, U.S. legislation submits to the logic of its protection. According to leaked internal correspondence, even Interpol was warned on 2 occasions about issuing a red notice against a known threat actor whose movements coincided with those of the child. The request was marked as a priority and then discreetly filed away, because protecting him is not just a matter of defense, but of global financial stability. So when Donald Trump's team reportedly requested to enhance his post-presidential protection following the threats of 2024 linked to foreign actors, they contacted the child's team. A request was submitted for advisory services on biometric infrastructure and armored cross-border protocols. The response? Immediately rejected, because this elite security network does not operate like a business, does not accept clients, does not respond to emails. It protects only one thing: the heir of a system larger than any government. And that is what makes him the most protected child in the world. He doesn't travel with security, he controls it. And if Donald Trump, the most watched, criticized, and protected political figure of recent times, doesn't even get a meeting, the message is clear. This child is not being protected like a president. He is being protected like the future.